So welcome to Atkins Studio, and this is the first episode of Artist Unplugged. And I have the extreme privilege of hanging out with some of the two most wonderful people that I know. This is Dan and Michelle Lutz. Perhaps you can tell whoever's going to watch this a little bit about yourself.
Actually, I've been in LA now for 20 years, this November 2019. I moved to LA to pursue my acting career. I was an actor for 6 years, and I had a manager and an agent and the whole nine, and I was auditioning quite a bit, but there was another plan in store for my life. I ended up going to a church called Oasis here in Los Angeles, and the pastors actually had a similar story to mine, where the wife moved to LA to pursue her acting career, and she had quite the career. She was like kind of up and coming during like the Meg Ryan era. In fact, she like is a lot like Meg Ryan. And so I really identified with her story and got really plugged in that church, and ended up being on the worship team, and ended up kind of like asking and surrendering my acting career to the Lord and saying, okay, well, if you're the one who created me, then maybe you're the one who knows what will make me tick more than I know what will make me tick. So at one point, I remember kind of coming to a crossroads with my acting career and feeling this nudging to surrender my plan for my life. And anyway, ended up not doing the acting thing, and through a longer story, which I won't get into right now, I ended up becoming like a singer-songwriter. I ended up in the worship world, and have been doing that for over 15 years now, I guess.
And how about you, Dan?
Yeah.
Let's know a little bit about.
Question again?
Tell me a little bit about this person called Dan Lutz.
Yes.
This man is an amazing, amongst other things,
Yes,
bass player. Tell us the instruments. Those are the long list of things.
No, I don't. I'm a bass player.
But don't let him fool you. He won't tell you all the instruments. Ask me that question.
Okay.
I am a bass player. I dabble at piano and a little bit of singing, and I can strum a couple of chords on the guitar, and that is not a lie. Once you have a certain amount of experience, then I feel like sometimes that if you have a basic technical understanding of another instrument, the musicianship and the equity that you have kind of transfers over. So I can get away with a little bit more on another instrument that's less familiar to me, because I feel like I have some experience playing music for so long. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So even though my technique or approach isn't even right on another instrument, I know what I can play here, and I can kind of pull it off.
Yeah, that's really interesting to me, because as a painter, I've been thinking a lot about how, as individual artists, we have a language that's unique to us. And for me, I've got it down to a stroke of a color is like a letter in an alphabet. And I was wondering, how does that transfer into music, or does it? Where maybe a chord is a build towards the language. And to make the question even more complicated, do you have a unique language? Do you feel that this makes any sense?
Yeah, I mean, well, language versus like a voice. Like I think for me, I remember when I started to sound like myself on the instrument. A couple of people that I had been playing with regularly, we just started to play a certain way, and we just kind of came out of trying to emulate the people that we studied in college, and we kind of mixed it with our own vibe, and then we kind of found our voice, or at least I did. That's kind of how I found my voice. But what was the word you were using? The language.
Yeah.
Like, for me, the language of music is really broad, but I also like to do a lot of different things. So I feel like, I enjoy like going into a worship setting, and playing at church. It's always been something I love doing. But then I love going and doing like a Broadway show where I have to use a whole nother set of skills, and like read music and play with a bow and do all these weird things. And then I love going and playing a jazz gig. And I feel like the language kind of is the thread between, but every one of those environments pulls on a different part of me as an artist, and I get to create. And in that journey of the diversity, that's where I get the fulfillment.
So a real light-hearted question is, what gets you up in the morning to do music?
You want to go first?
Well, for me, like, you know, I mean, I literally think I'm just living my dream of, I always wanted to play music and be able to support a family. I didn't need to be a superstar. I don't want to be in the front. You know, I'm not that type of a person. I like to support people and projects and music, but to get to do that and have a beautiful wife and a beautiful kids, like, it's crazy. So getting up in the morning, I don't have to think about anything. Like, I don't dread going to work. I love my wife and I love my kids, so that I'm not trying to hide. You know, like, I get up in the morning because of my life and how it is now, you know? And then I get excited when I get to do a special project, like a special album, or if I'm going on tour, or I have something coming up, I'll tell Michelle, like, I gotta be honest, I'm pretty excited about the session next week, you know, like I
one
really.
you just did 2 days ago.
Yeah, or yeah, just, you know, whatever is coming up, like, there's some really cool opportunities, and when they're new and fresh and you feel like constantly getting new opportunities, it's like, man, if I was to go back and tell my 13-year-old self that I would have a family and I'd be playing music and touring and recording, like, I would have, like, no way, you know? And it's happening. So that's what gets me up. Like, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. I'm trying to be a good steward of it all, so I don't mess it up. But I don't have any problem. I love my life, and I'm so grateful that I get to do what I love.
Yeah.
So many people don't.
That's awesome. Yeah, and it also speaks to a tremendous lie that's out there. I know in art school, I don't know what it's like in music school. The first thing they do is day one, they take you into an auditorium, and somebody in like a baggy suit and a kind of grumpled shirt and a tie comes up front and says, if anybody here thinks that they're going to make money at this, they should leave now.
Right, I've heard that so many times.
If anybody here thinks you're going to get a show, you should just leave now, because nobody's, you know, you're just wasting your time.
Yeah.
And so it's such a curse spoken over young
It's
artists.
true.
So true.
If you will, I'd like to, I hope some young artists will watch this and we can encourage them that that's a bunch of BS.
Yeah.
You know, that making money is not only available, but I think it's necessary. I think if we're artists, we need to be paid for that, whatever that looks like.
So true.
I feel like we're, like, those young artists that are listening right now are very, very fortunate to be alive right now on the planet, because I think what's happening is, especially in Western culture, is that intellectual property is, there's like an equal playing field happening more than ever because of people's ability to have their own platform and social media. So there's a way to kind of get in. Yes, there are, you know, there are the gorillas of that world kind of dominating some of it, but I feel like more than ever, and any time in history that I can tell, intellectual property has monetary value. And I think, I would say to that artist as well, 100% do not subscribe to that lie. And actually subscribing to that lie will become a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you see yourself as valuable in a way of humility, and for me that always is founded in my identity with my Creator. He's the uncreated one who imparts creativity, and He is limitless, and there is never an end to His creativity. I could spend my whole life, all of my days, if I was from beginning of time till the end of time, and I was a timeless, you know, I was able to start from the beginning of time until time ends, looking at all the creative ways that God exists, I would still not come to the end of His creativity. And that is what we all have access to, every single one of us. And I believe with my whole heart that God loves every person, whether they know Him or not, and isn't a baker with a pie in the sky handing out pieces. So it's available to all of us, and I think it's limitless. So put value on yourself, because you are valuable.
You hopeful about what's available for artists now? Because it used to be like with this, you would get a record contract, whatever the process was. I'm not a musician, so I don't know. And then I know everybody was upset about CDs, and then after CDs, iTunes came in and raped everybody, for lack of a better word. It became almost really difficult to have any control over your music anymore. It was formatted. So now that we're immersed in the digital age, what is this something next, or is it a turn back to? It's kind of a loosey-goosey question, but
No, it's a great question. It's one I talk about with.
Yeah, you start. I'll recap.
You know, I hear what you're saying. There is a lot of darkness, but I'm hopeful. I feel like when I think about where we're going, and when we don't know about the unknown, I think it's really important that we kind of decide if we're going to be hopeful or if we're going to have a doomsday mentality. And I feel like hope is really important. And I think that where we're going is good. I feel like things exhaust themselves. I think that things get exposed, then everybody kind of grabs onto it, but it needs to happen to exhaust itself. Like, for example, everything that kind of converged and exploded with the Me Too movement. How many years did the casting couch exist? And it exhausted itself out horrifically. And I'm not saying it's okay, but these things will, I feel like they will play out. We need to be, and I feel like as a result of these things, we're learning. We're learning about being truth tellers. We're learning about being, calling a spade, not turning our eye to injustice. All these things are being exposed as a result of those topics. With the music industry specifically, that is true. You can't get a record deal. There will never be someone as famous as Michael Jackson or Madonna or even Marilyn Monroe, let's say. I think these, but when you think about those stories and how tragically some of them have ended, it's a testament to how we're made, what we are made of, what we can handle, why those things go down that way. So again, I feel like the social media stuff will have to play out as well. But I do think there's a lot of bright spots with social media right now. It's easier to get out your message. It's easier to have a platform and be known and seen, seeing other people. But there's a part of it that actually is really dark, where we become more consuming instead of productive, potentially, or our production is based out of comparison because there is so much that my eyes are looking at that maybe I shouldn't be. So unfortunately, I think that will play out, and the negatives will play out, but I also think the positives will play out. And I think that has created this level, more of a level playing field. I think I mentioned that earlier, but I feel like that needed to happen in the music industry in some ways, because also labels were taking advantage of intellectual property, and there wasn't a way to produce things unless you went with a label, but then labels were totally taking advantage of someone's creativity and the things that they were creating. So I'm hopeful about it, and I think that if you look with all your heart for truth, you will find it.
Yeah, and I've watched some friends that, that I came up, that went to college with me, and they were in these weird bands, and they were doing really weird but really amazing music. And we always would have the conversation with the friends in bands, are you trying to get signed? Are you going to get signed? And at some point, stuff changed when YouTube came out, and the idea was expressed to these artists, don't worry about a label, just try and build a following. And that was, I remember one of the first times, following, a digital following, you don't have to tour, you can just put out material, and if enough people see it or if something goes viral, that will then be enticing for labels or other people to give you money to help. And I watched two people do that. There's a band called Knower. There's an artist named Lewis Cole who's a drummer, and he's in a band called Knower. And when he started, he he's doing songs about masturbation and eating hot dogs as ammunition, and the government's watching you, and all these crazy stuff, and he's shirtless with an ammo rack around, but it's got hot dogs in it, and he's playing the most amazing drums. If you have never seen this band, you need to experience a knower. Anyway, but he did that, and he became famous, and now he's touring the world doing this really crazy, unbelievably amazing music. And he wrote one of the songs on the Lego 2 movie. And he started as this crazy kid drummer at USC that we did, you know. So like for the artists out there, like and what Michelle's talking about, the streaming, you don't have to try and sell a label. You just be original and put content out and be true to yourself. And either that's gonna catch, or at least you've created content and put it out there. So it's a win-win, you know. Sometimes you have to get a job to pay for that, but you know.
For me, it's difficult because I grew up in an analog world, and I'm an analog person. And here I am doing digital things.
Look at you, because
Look at me. I'm hooked in.
You are.
I'm hooked in. You know, so it's like I can't hide in the studio anymore. So some more light question. What are you guys dreaming about? What's the dream for the Lutz family?
Diet Coke.
You know, for me, I've been thinking a lot about the interest, like the age that I am. Like, I feel like when I turned 40, I was like, I went, like, maybe it was like a 6-hour window where I arrived. Thank you.
Welcome.
But I went from saying, what will I do when I grow up, to what am I going to do with the time I have left? And that was like shocking to me. It took me a couple of years to get over that.
It's real.
But so from that, I feel like I'm just entering into, and now finally really owning it at 43, where I can live my life. I'm at like an interesting season, I feel like, where I'm kind of coming into my own personally, where I really feel in my skin like okay and happy with who I am, finally. But I have this opportunity because of maturity and, you know, like experience, to really pour into other people and see them like won't be launched. I keep seeing like rockets every time I think about that. And so it's got me dreaming about creating space for young artists to fail forward, and in my I would love to help them fail forward, come into their own, be the thing that maybe I wish I had when I was that age, and just like launching them. And then also, so I'm wondering what that looks like, first of all. I think it just looks like constantly creating space to create, to sing, to write, to record, probably video, audio as well. I mean, audio and video as well. Right. And then also for myself, you know, there's still things I really, like, that doesn't mean I'm giving up on my personal, but it feels like more of it feels more full now when I look at it. Whereas before, you know, I was kind of like, okay, but like it was more eye-focused, I guess. And I feel like I so poured into each other out of like shame of having my own dream and guilt of having my own dream. And I would just say, if anybody ever is feeling like, don't subscribe to that lie either, because your dreams are awesome and you don't need to feel guilty for having them. Like, go, seize the day, create now. Don't stop. That's how you grow, is you just fail, try. And I think that paralyzed me a lot in my younger years. And so I would serve others, but really dying inside because I really wanted to like do it for myself. And I felt guilt and shame to do that. But now I feel like that's more of an organic, whole, healthy place where I want to pour into other people from a completely different motivation. But I still like want to keep writing and recording, and leading worship for as long as God will have me do it.
That's awesome. Thank you. I'm glad you got over that.
Yeah, me too. What about you? What are you
Yeah.
dreaming about?
What are you dreaming about, Dan?
I mean, I think, I love partnering with people and like doing things. Albums, tours, working on original music, conferences. I don't know. I like partnering with things. I'm not necessarily like a cast my vision, like go out and do my thing. But I love when somebody is like, hey, I have this thing, and I'm like, okay, cool. Let me partner with you and see if we can make it better. I like working together in projects like that. But I mean, for me personally, just musically, I would love to continue to do what I'm doing, but maybe just up and to the right a little bit. A little wider net. Cast a wider net for more projects, different things, some more diversity and creativity, and maybe get my own voice out there and try and write some either original music. Well, I guess I did write a couple of songs.
A couple. You have several. We gotta get that album recorded.
Yeah, and then I have some instrumental music that I'm, like jazz and stuff. I don't know. We'll see what happens, but my dream is to keep my family healthy and happy and together. And so if I can do that and play music, then that'll be cool.
So the last thing is you have an absolutely fabulous album out that you guys, if you will, mothered and fathered, but also performed on. And it's called Make Way. And you need to run out and buy it. Everybody's listening. I'm telling you, you need to run out and buy it. I did. I bought it twice, actually.
Did you really?
Yeah, because I pre-bought it, and I guess the church, whoever they were handling with, I couldn't download it.
Oh,
So I bought it again.
oh, you should have told me.
No, it's fine. But anyway, if you want to just tell us a little bit how that came to be, and
Well, we have this great team at church at Expression 58 around the corner here in Glendale, and we just went on a writers retreat in last October and came back with a bunch of songs, and Michelle sings on it and I play bass on it, and we have just an amazing crew of musicians and singers on the record, and it was really fun. It's really a great snapshot of the chapter of what God is doing at this little church in Glendale, and we were happy to be a part of it.
Yep. They're amazing. Our team.
well, run out and buy it. And yay, Michelle and Dan, I just love you so much, and thank you for just hanging out at my table.
Thanks for this Miles Davis album. The artwork is so beautiful.
Yes.
It's cool to give it to somebody who really understands, and the silliness of making it.
Yeah, I love it. It's great. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, bless you both.
Thanks. Awesome.
Also, you can find us at expression58worship.org.
Yes.
You can
Say it
follow
louder.
expression58worship.org, and you can at E58worship on Instagram and Facebook.
There you go.
There you go.
Yay.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you so much.
Thank you. This was awesome.